Where did you all go? Okay. Good morning. Oh, Momo. Oh, Momo. Om Karam Bindu Samyuktam Nityam Dhyayanti Yoginaha Kamadam Mokshadam Chaiva Om Karaya Namo Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachidananda Murtaye Nisprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om. Okay. So, welcome to Satsang. Okay. Who will lead us into some inquiry this morning? Yana.
I was sitting in meditation this morning and focusing on the space between objects. And as I was sitting with this, feeling into the space in between objects, the space in objects, the space in my body, not being able to find the edge of it, just watching, okay, well, the space goes to the walls of this room, but then the space goes beyond the walls and it started to, spread out further and further. And this sense of being the space came on and a sense of bliss in that. And as I was sitting in this feeling of peacefulness, blissfulness, I watched as clinging came up to cling to the experience. And as I was inquiring into how does this happen? How does this happen? What the mind came to, wrong or not, right or wrong, was that it appeared that the mind turned the feeling of bliss into an object and then clung to the object. And so on seeing this, there was an attempt to release the object and go back to the experience of the space. But the mind wasn't able to, because instead of going back to the now and the experience that was actually happening, it kept trying to reference the object as past, as memory. And then it wasn't able to access what was actually present, what was actually happening in the now. And so I'd like to hear what you have to say about, there's what the mind perceived as happening, but what actually happened.
Yes. Yes, it's just like this. No more complicated than that. So you say, you shift the attention from objects to the space between objects. You shift your space, you shift your attention as subject from object to space. And in this, you couldn't find the boundary. All boundaries were immediately seen as false. All the boundaries also existed in space, in all directions. Backwards, forwards, left, right, up, down, and inward also. Yes? Good. Then, bliss. Yes, this is the experience. Then you say you somehow objectified the bliss, and clinging to it, and then bliss diminishes. Yes. So you wondered, how does this happen? Who was wondering? And for what purpose? You see, understanding is how did I refer to it? It's a paltry second place prize. Who's asking? And what is the benefit to that one of thinking it knows? Because what's happening in this is you almost like the mind somehow, through its focus of attention on objects, forgets the context of the contents. It forgets the framework within which all of these happenings arise and fall. And then by objectifying, we also subjectify. We subject ourselves to the object. So we reach and touch the object, bliss, call it a thing, and then it diminishes, and now you're in a relationship of clinging, chasing, running, clinging. This awareness of subject-object relativity, it's important to develop this. It's called Drik Drish Viveka, subject-object awareness, wisdom. This awareness is awareness itself, which is where you're speaking from now, but still somehow, through the habit of identifying as subject, thinking you're that, the subject of this morning's meditation is different than the subject of the one reporting on this morning's meditation. But you see, the subject from this morning is now the object of now, a memory, a concept, and you still said, I was meditating. And now you're a subject, calling itself I, speaking from awareness, but somehow still lost in the subjectivity of this relationship, a superimposition of subject and object. You touch it, it touches back. So, when you touch with a focused attention on objects, forgetting the framework, the reality in which it exists, and you move into a world that now you call reality, but it's not really that much different than when you watch TV or scrolling on your phone, when you lose yourself in the content of the screen. Even can forget you're in a room, in a body. The mind is so focused on the contents that you can see this in children, especially with their devices. They're completely lost from their reality into an illusion, a drama of somebody else's creation, called TV or podcast or Netflix. This is not different from that. So, inquire into this with sincerity, noticing the clinging. Why did it matter how you're clinging? Why not just simply uncling? It doesn't, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm not saying it's not helpful to understand. It is helpful to understand the dynamic of how you lose yourself in the contents of your perceptions, the contents of your awareness, somehow moving from awareness into the subject-object relationship where you yourself become objectified. Do you see it? How in moving towards object, you become an object yourself. And now you have entered the realm of subject-object, cause and effect, karma, bondage. Do you see it? Entering into, losing yourself into the contents, you objectify yourself, still calls itself I as subject, and now is bound by cause and effect. And so in truth, you need only to drop it. And in truth, there's no habit and no conditioning to overcome. Just like when you fell asleep last night and lost yourself in a dream, it only had apparent reality, not a real reality. Seemed real. This moment also seems real to you, yes? So, when you are released as the awareness, where even borders are discarded as false, what question do you have? And who's asking? And the only thing at risk here is that you will lose the self that is lost. Huh? Lost in thought, you will lose the one who is lost. In that, you would say, you are found. But even that, not really. So this habit itself, you see that as object on the screen of awareness. You didn't cling at all. You saw a tendency of clinging and misidentified yourself as that. You have never once been anything other than the awareness. And even in the sincere effort of coming back to truth, we dissect the illusion as if it will tell us anything. When you come to this, the advanced seeker eventually will come to the place where you enter fully ready to die. And prepared not to be drawn into the habit of inquiry, of understanding, because that also is just another mirage. And in the meantime, it's very helpful to understand the dynamic, the pattern. Very helpful for you to see the mirage as it is, for what it is. To understand that awareness is always being co-opted by the identity, the egoic I sense, is a thief of the light of awareness. It continues to draw you into the crime. and then we'll lead you through the investigation. Searching for the perpetrator. The police officer robs a bank, gets dressed the next morning, puts on his uniform, and leads the investigation. Who robbed the bank? Identity thief. I have no idea what's happening here. And I'm fine. And I'm okay. There's not only nothing new to know, there are things known to be discarded. I want to know will lead you down the garden path again, right back in. I want to know this, I want to know that. Leads you right back into the labyrinth. What you want to want. What you want to want is to want to know the one thing by which all things are known. Do you understand? Is it a riddle? What you want is to want to know the one thing by which all things are known. Well, anyway, it's not a thing either, but what to say? And by your own report, this was bliss, exchanged for a desire to know. When you come to the place of at least in earnest, ready and willing to surrender into not knowing, and demonstrating your sincerity and your willingness, not moving from there, not being drawn into any temptation to know some elevated, mystical, secret teaching, which is fool's gold, remaining in your not knowing, following no thread of thought or promise of gnosis, invited into the secret teachings of mercurial or hermetic fool's gold. And so you remain in your not knowing. Then knowing becomes not subjective. Knowingness supersedes all knowing. Self-evident. Self-evident. And by this, all things are known, but not as such. No knowledge to carry. Nothing to learn. Empty. Empty even of the concept I know. And it is seen from here. All things known, as I say, all things known is a paltry second prize. All of this is designed to lead you away from what you think you know. In order that you abide in this bliss as awareness. Swami Satchidananda would say, I am not a Hindu, I'm an undo. This isn't learning, this is unlearning. What you think you know has you bound, and what others taught you, isn't it? It isn't it. Even what spiritual books and spiritual teachers teach you, priests and pundits, it isn't it.
I'm noticing right now that on the precipice of detachment, there's like this desperation to cling to something, this searching for something to grab. And in finding nothing, it clings to its own habit of clinging, somehow objectifying this habit of clinging as something, it's the last hope of something to cling to.
Yes. But only as an experience that you are aware of, and it has nothing to do with you. It's a drive-by. Huh? You just drive by. It's not a drive-by shooting, by the way. That's not right. Don't even touch it. But yes, this is how it seems, and it can be helpful to know. It's helpful to know in preparation. It's helpful to know how it appeared, but it's also most helpful to know it has nothing to do with you. It arises in mind, and you are aware of it. You have never once clung. You aren't the one who will let go. It has nothing to do with you. Maybe you could say, oh, curious, and then come back to, I don't know, and I don't mind. Means I don't care. I don't mind. I don't mind what mind is minding about. The habit itself is seen. You simply say, I see. No understanding. When you understand, I don't know, this is the one thing you can stand under that will bring to you what you've always been wanting. When you understand things, you stand under things, and they rule you, possess you. Time to not understand. Stand alone. Stand in the unknown, under I don't know. Allow the terror to come. It's no concern to you. Allow the whole sense to want to lurch back and retreat. It makes no difference to you. You simply are watching. Soften to the entire unfolding, unraveling. Let it be. Don't touch. Then what you understand in I don't know, you now understand God. You know God. Not as a concept. Not as anything anybody ever told you about. Not that. Couldn't be. But you know. You've had glimpses, so you know this knowing is possible. Soon enough, you'll abide in that knowing, the knowingness. I've taken to calling it as a distinction, from I know. Knowingness is the same as I don't know. There's this wonderful interview I've shared with some of you before with Carl Jung. They're talking about his childhood and religion. He said, did you believe in God? Yes, I believed in God. We went to church every Sunday. It was part of our culture. And, he described a bit about his childhood. And so the interviewer asks, and now? And now? He says, oh, no. Now I don't believe in God. Now I know. Now I know. No belief necessary. It's beyond understanding. It's beyond understanding, totally beyond it. I have no idea what's happening here. All of this has nothing to do with me. I saw this quote recently. I love it. All of this has nothing to do with me. It sounds very much like something Nisargadatta might have said with a grumpy voice. Huh? You say there are subjects and objects in dramas. I do not know. Something like this, right? But, when you know how the drama will play out, there's some advantage to it because you are still identifying as the subject, on the path to freedom as the seeker. So it's helpful to know that when it comes to this intersection, most people will turn away. And you will see things like, the clinging is only to the clinging itself. Very subtle. So see it and be done with it. And it's a beautiful thing to share in satsang. I encourage this so that we can all look at it together, so we can all see it, and drive right by. In order to know God, you must vanish. There will be no regret. Good riddance. So all of this that we are doing, many of us will do a Ho'oponopono forgiveness weekend. This is the reason that we do this is not to learn how to forgive, but to free ourselves from attachments, resentments, bondage. Yeah. We do this not to become forgivers, not to teach forgiveness, but to come to die. To die to the past. To undo. Not to Hindu, to undo. What is revealed in this how can I say? all that you will lose is your suffering and your sufferer. And what will remain is your bliss as bliss. And of the things of the world, now everything you do without the sense of doership will be effortless, divinely inspired, not egoically compelled. Now, any role or duty that remains, you will do it so much more gracefully. You'll be more productive even. And by my estimation, somewhere around 10% of the energy is required. Doing happens more effectively and more efficiently. What remains? But first you must surrender the one who negotiates what will and will not remain. That one is the presumed controller that has no power whatever. And any sense of control it ever had was a bit of a childish folly, pretending to be able to create strategies and cause and effect that are so much more infinitely complex than it can possibly comprehend. So in these moments, in the meditation, the contemplation, the dissolution, always ask, who wants to know? Who's seeking? Who's striving? Who wants to understand? Who wants to know and why? And then you'll see with this one question, you will return immediately to awareness, recognizing you never left. And your only job then, with what little remains of you, is to remain unattached. And then in time, also this effort will disappear. So let's say it this way. Your effort now is to detach. And every level of detachment, now you must, with some gentle, persistent vigilance, remain unattached. Means don't pick it up again. Detach and remain unattached. Now, then this is a life that is divinely inspired by God, by divinity, free of compulsion and addiction and a hunger that you will never sate. a thirst you will never quench. And you'd be free of all of that. And it is accessible now. Not tomorrow's meditation, this moment. When we approach this, as it appears that we approach this, we see the clinging, we see the terror, we see the desire to run. We see a storm comes in the mind and in the heart. And it will test your sincerity. You'll want to debate or argue. You'll be offended, as we were talking about recently. All of this, you simply are aware. It's curious to me how these things are being said so plainly and openly. What does that mean for you? What does it mean for you now that you're hearing this? Why are you hearing this? Yana.
There is frustration happening to be offered up as confession. And the frustration is the memory that in meditation a week or so ago, you offered to us, put on your white lab coat and be the neutral scientist who observes and inquires, how does thought become my thought? And so this morning, I put on my lab coat and as the neutral scientist observed, how did clinging arise out of this state of bliss? And what I'm hearing today is that the folly was in asking what happened in the needing to know. And the thought path that's been happening is, well, you gave that instruction to the one that was sitting in front of you then, and you're giving this instruction to the one that's sitting in front of you now. And so how can any instruction ever be held on to for any amount of time? How is there any permanence in any practice if the one that you're giving it to is poof, gone as soon as you say it to that one? And so what is there to be gained in picking a practice and sticking with it? And it reminds me of, Andrew, thank you for laughing. Both Andrews, thank you for laughing. And I'm reminded of you say all the time, Swami Satchidananda says, I give you all of these practices to exhaust you so that you'll just surrender and give up to God. So yes, all of this is coming up now. In frustration of the one who wants to do it right and be the good student and listen to instruction and apply accordingly.
Yes. You're on to me. Let me tell you what I do not want from you, for you, is to be a good student or an accomplished practitioner. after a profound shift in consciousness, I came into spiritual communities and hadn't had much exposure to it before, and I started asking a lot of questions of people. And it wasn't just one I came across who would say, I've been meditating for 30, 40 years. But there's one in particular that I remember. And it was just a very subtle, there was a generosity in it. It was being very kind and helpful to me. But there was he bragged a little bit, just very subtly, about being a meditator for 40 years. And then seamlessly shifted into a conversation about politics and this and that. And I was horrified. I thought, if I can meditate for 40 years and still be so co-opted by an illusion, still be perturbed. So I knew in that moment I did not ever want to be an accomplished practitioner. My goal was to never be a good meditator. And I was lucky and grateful for his example. I don't know what happened to him. He may have realized the moment he, walked out the door, or it may take him another 40 years of meditation, 40 lifetimes of 40 years of meditation. I don't know. Practice, practice, practice with all urgency. Pick up your sword and fight. Do it in earnest, with real sincerity. You can't imagine your way into surrender. You could say that the entire purpose of the Zen tradition, of the intense meditation and all of the austerities, is just to rapidly get to the place of surrender. There's this the example of the young Zen monks meditating, sitting perfectly still, and the master is saying, repeat after me, I am not this body. And they get into this mantra, I am not this body, I am not this body. And the master comes up with his bamboo cane and smacks one in the back and says, who hurts? So this is much more gentle. Who's practicing for what? Be frustrated and persist in your practice, and simultaneously realize that you have only to surrender. When that moment comes to you, when you stand at the precipice, at the intersection, will you choose to be a practitioner then, to take something back into your practice? Or will you release all practice and release the practitioner? The practice leads the practitioner to its own precipice. And there, it is either surrendered or reinvigorated. You choose. And if you choose to reinvigorate your practice, which is very common, it will circle back. The opportunity will come. The moment will come again. The intersection will come again. But it's dangerous telling you that. Because then you could say, God's just making his rounds. I'll catch you next time. Today I have dinner to cook. You know? It's not a good time, Lord. Next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Got so many things to take care of. Oh, God says, oh, do you now? Ah, okay. I didn't know, God might say. Yes, of course. Shouldn't want to take you from your obligations. All of this is the preparation in that moment to choose to surrender, to die. And all of this life is preparation for you to die the final time. Not like the body dies. All that you call life and that everybody calls life is preparation for that. And I'm reminded, when Jesus came through town and said, come follow me, Peter left his boat, his nets, his family, his reputation, his everything. The world calls this one deadbeat. Irresponsible. So, in your preparation, when God comes, know what you'll do. And you wait. It was my observation. I don't know what other people's experience. I was in an ashram and I saw one Swami working himself to the bone, to exhaustion. One time I saw him carrying a wagon. I think there were rocks in it. He was just sweating and exhausted and with a great urgency. And I thought, my goodness. And then a massive storm came through a few months later. I was no longer there. And I heard that after the storm passed through, he was found just laughing. So there's something to this practice of bringing one to the marrow of exhaustion in total sincerity to want nothing other than freedom. And to work. But then to lay it all aside in that moment. Pretending to surrender is very different than surrender. And so I really encourage you to continue with whatever is your practice, to reinvigorate it over and over and over again. But when that moment comes, drop it. And drop the practitioner with it. You see? Okay.
When when mind and time fall away and God is revealed, the experience is, it's difficult to talk about, but put words to. But the sensation is just a rush of energy and a really intense sense of here-ness, nowness. And it's very, I can't think of another word but intense as a way to describe it. The presence. Does one just does one just acclimatize to that over time the more it occurs? Yeah, that's the question.
Yes. Well, two ways to answer this, to address this. One is no, nothing to acclimate. No one to acclimate. And the experiencer will acclimate. And without great effort. Huh? The experiencer knowing itself as something new, seeing this newness reflected in all that it perceives, knows itself in the scene, and will acclimate. And not so much more complicated than every shift you've ever been through, even in your embodied identity. At first, to learn how to ride a bike took tremendous concentration and falling and trying again and learning and then balancing. And now you can see kids riding their bikes with a Gatorade in one hand and a cell phone in another hand. Huh? Or you went through puberty, a tremendous change. And you were aware of contrast, but eventually you only ever just felt like me. This is what me feels like. This is not different. It isn't special, and it's also the most special. And so you will adapt and adjust accordingly, and it will become your nature, first nature. And these two can coexist. The one who isn't, that no acclimation necessary, and the one who is experiencing the contrast. Increasingly, you'll come to see, and probably are already seeing, that experience doesn't diminish the awareness. Experiencer also doesn't diminish awareness. And in the state of unattached awareness, experiencer experience, insofar as it appears, you won't be troubled so much by it. But always first with the inquiry, who is aware? Who notices? Who's asking? Who's saying? Before you dive in, come to this inquiry first, always this. Make this your practice. So, we detach and we remain unattached. We forgive, we forget. Remember, you become what you eat. So I wish you all a healthy diet. Okay. Love you, love you. Thank you.